Okay, anybody else who hasn't turned up can slot in at the back and I'll point and laugh at them as they come in, it'll be fine. This is Excession, and now those of you who are familiar with the Ian Banks novel will have some idea what I'm referring to. For those of you who aren't, here we go, here's the first of the latecomers. Sit your ass down, it's all good, I've not properly started yet. Outside context problem. The concept of Go on, I'll wait for you as well. Sorry. Find somebody to owe a patch as repayment.
Okay, busy.
Good man. Right, so, the idea of an outside context problem. In the context of the original sci-fi stuff, the idea was when a species encounters something that is so far outside of their normal range of conception, they have no idea how to deal with it. I think the idea of an outside context problem is quite interesting, because one of the points that Banks was saying was it's a fundamental, you cannot comprehend what this is. I mean, the typical example of an outside context problem among human societies, it's like a trickle of oh, never mind. So the idea of an outside context problem among human societies is basically you've been scratching around in the mud with your spears and your, oh my... Right, I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes for everybody to turn up, right? Screw it. Are there any more following you? Thanks for that, that was very helpful. Nice Gallic shrug, completely useless. Okay, so the idea of an outside context problem in terms of human societies. If somebody else comes through that door now, somebody just kill them, please. The idea of an outside context problem in terms of human societies is basically, you know, you've been happy in your tribe for 12 generations, wandering around, hitting things with spears, well, maybe stabbing things with spears if you're actually good at the spear. Evidently I'm not. Nobody lets me around sharp objects. It's a bad idea. That explains the sideburns, obviously. Anyway. So, your tribe for 10 generations has been scratching around with a spear. He's going to die later. Don't worry, we're just murdering people for being late. It'll be fine. We'll raise you afterwards. Right, so, you've been scratching around in the mud with your spears, and that's all good. And then suddenly, this giant metal dragon appears in the bay, and a pale man comes off the giant metal dragon and says, "You have been discovered. We are your new lords now. Look, we have fire sticks." And it is basically the same, hey, Peter Collar got over his hangover and turned up. Excellent. Right, so the basic thing is, an outside context problem, if a society fails to adapt, tends to lead to an extinction level event. And I've been sort of thinking about where Perl is up to and where we've been doing things. And so the question is, what are our outside context problems? Marketing? No, actually, we're not doing too badly there. Okay, we've still got a lot to learn, because give a Perl programmer the choice of sit and blog and sing the praises of Perl or go for a beer, he's going to be down the pub, which is perfectly fine. Marketing is hard, but it's not quite an OCP. It's just something we're crap at. That's different. Okay, what actually are our outside context problems? Well, in terms of the modern Perl community, I'd say our big outside context problem is newbies. Because, okay, I hang out on Freenode Hash Perl is great fun. Freenode Hash Perl is wonderful. Freenode Hash Perl, it's an interesting environment. For those of us inside the echo chamber, I mean, you know, we have Catalyst, DBX class, Moose, all of the new Plaque, CPAM minus, all of this stuff. Somebody turns up on Freenode Hash Perl, you're lucky if they know to use strict. And they're parsing HTML with regular expressions, because that always goes well. And they're learning Perl off some awful tutorial they found off Google that says, here's how to use formats. Yes, about 1 in 4 of them is still using using the Perl 4 style, call every subroutine with an ampersand stuff. No, don't laugh. It's horrible. About at least once a day somebody goes, how do I do the bar name drift? Because somebody showed me this and it looked really cool. It was almost, you know, and as we all know, this thing is almost as bad as PHP's register goblins. And they're using CGI.pm because, hey, it's already there and they've got some shitbox shared hosting with a CGI bin and FTP access and what are modules and what's CPAN and I can't install modules, I've only got 50 megabytes of space. Oh my god. Really. If you want to get out of the echo chamber and realise just how much all of the cool stuff we've got is not escaping, hang out on Freenode Perl for a couple of days and try to help people. It's an experience. You know, okay, we have the Enlightened Perl movement. We have a fantastic large-scale application stack that is reliable, backwards compatible, almost always installs first time. Anytime it doesn't, please bitch at somebody. I get sick of people going, oh, well, I tried, but I couldn't get taskengine to install. Well, why didn't you tell us then? We'd have fixed it by now. Anyway, and you've got the modern Perl movement, also known as Americans don't understand what enlightenment is, and Chromatic needed to sell books. And the newbies are still learning. They're learning formmail.pl, capital Perl, 2001 era shite. We need to fix this because it's awful. You know, you have these amazing tools, but these people don't understand why they need them yet. Freenode Perl has a fairly reasonable chance at getting newbies onto Moose for doing OO, provided they're actually able to install stuff, because of course Moose has excess dependencies, so you need CPAN and a compiler or you are screwed. Now, most people do have that, but your random idiot on crappy shared hosting doesn't. So, you know, what are the things we can say to them? Well, we can say, here's how to use CGI.pm, or we can say, go use PHP. Neither of which really appeals, you know? But of those three, only DBIX class is pure Perl. We actually, we got a bug reported recently by some guy in Germany. It's always the frickin' Germans on crap CGI hosting. I do not know why. In spite of the fact that the German Perl workshop is mostly sysadmins, every company that hires people to do apps development doesn't seem to have discovered the concept of a sysadmin yet. It's unbelievable. Anyway, but no, we actually got shouted at because we'd accidentally picked up an excess dependency, and there are people out there deploying DBIX class over FTP because that's the only way they can get modules. And I was like, I'm glad that we can support that, but we all forget about this. I mean, I've seen that people like Schwern going, well, you know, if they didn't upgrade their entire toolchain before trying to install the module, obviously it's their fault if the module doesn't install. No! If trying to install some random thing from CPAN fails, they're not going to go, oh, maybe I need to update CPAN, xutils makemaker, module build, xutils cbuilder. Xutils parse access, xutils depends, maybe I need a toolchain with configure requires. They don't know what configure requires is. They just know CPAN broke, Perl is clearly crap, I'm going to use PHP. Excellent, another user lost to the child pornographers. And this sort of restricted environment we forget exists. Most of the people doing all of the best stuff that's turning up, we have systems, we have local lib, we have a compiler, we can build our own stuff, we can use CPAN to this to build packages. And that's all great, but it's no use to the right frickin' newbie who doesn't understand any of this. You know, to him we've basically gone, well, you put on your robe and wizard hat, take your magic wand, and then do a piece of interpreted dance, and maybe it'll install. Completely pointless. And then you've also got the thing of sysadmins who are just trying to write a couple of quick scripts to do stuff. And we can't expect them to pull in a serious dependency chain either, because your average sysadmin is going to want this script to run on 50,000 frickin' servers. without having to install stuff on them. So you end up in a situation where the people who should be discovering Perl and discovering how wonderful it is can't use anything made in the last half decade. So they're doing 2001 year form-mail.pl style Perl. And it's still better than anything else, but really, you know, it doesn't quite have the pretty factor. We need to find a way to get the good practices out of the echo chamber and into somewhere that people can discover them. And then later they go, hey, hang on a minute, all of this stuff is really cool. Maybe I should ask my customer to pay $6 a month instead of $3 a month for their web hosting, and then I can use the real stuff. But until we get them addicted to doing things right, we're not going to be able to convince them of that. You basically have the can't get there from here problem. And it's starting to tell. Surveys of the Perl community are saying that the average age turning up to Perl conferences is gradually getting older. Yes, this is a reference to a song lyric. No, I don't remember which band it is. Those of you who get the reference, excellent. Those of you who don't, that's fine. Anyway, the point is, people, we're starting to trend older. Now, we're actually picking up a bunch of applications developers who've done Django, who've done Rails, who do Catalyst, and go, hang on a minute, I just came back to a Catalyst app from 18 months ago, upgraded everything from CPAN underneath it, and it all works. My God! I'd forgotten that was possible. I've been using Rails for too long. Of course, if they start finding that upsetting, then there's a very easy solution. You just get them to use Modulicious and they'll feel right at home. Here is 0.999364, codename hot beverage. Things we have broken since 0.999363 are... Anyway.
That's fine. It'll be completely rewritten from 1.0.
He's going to run out of 9 soon. Anyway, the point is, we're not with new blood. What should be the new blood, the people coming in at the junior end, are ending up stuck with ancient crap because they don't understand how to install the new stuff, or they can't see why they need it. Because a lot of the new stuff is being built by experienced developers for experienced developers on large-scale projects. So you're not pulling people into the small-scale projects. And so they're learning shite. And then we wonder why it's difficult to get them to make the leap to the proper stuff. Well, it's because there's this huge conception gap. The idea that the proper tools are an outside context problem for them. And that's where I think we're running into a big problem at the moment. Chromatic's Modern Perl book helps. That's a great start. The new Perl.com, and hopefully we'll start seeing more and more articles on there talking about this century's Perl. And that helps as well, but it's still not enough, because that stuff is only going to get found by the people who are going and looking for it. What we need somehow is to get the people who didn't know they were looking for Perl to find it and realise how awesome it is. So I've been thinking quite a lot about what do we do to deal with this? And threefold answer: code, write, and teach. And I'm afraid, I hate to say this to an audience of programmers, but code may actually be the least important of the three. I'm going to start with that anyway, because otherwise you're all going to go to sleep, right? So one of the things is, think about doing lightweight code. Using CPAN modules for stuff is great. People who go, but I can't use CPAN, tend to well, what you need to do is teach them how to use CPAN, not teach them to hate it. But we still need to try and do lightweight code. We want to have stuff that's pure Perl, small dependency chain. Come on, you late-ass bastards, grab a seat, it'll be fine. So CPAN minus is a great example of this. CPAN minus, people can curl it, pipe it to Perl dash, and do a full bootstrap of an environment without actually feeling like they've installed anything, and that's fantastic. Fatpacker, which I wrote, allows you to turn a script and a tree of dependencies into a single fat-ass script. that's actually how CPAN Minus is packed. And if we can take scripts that we're writing that use half a dozen modules and file, we can then give people single file scripts to pull down and then say, look, you can use CPAN and still have one script that you SCP about for people to use. And I've been messing about trying to write little modules that provide useful things. So IO Pipeline provides a map and grep style metaphor on the file handles. I've been using it a lot for log processing. Some of the DVIX class lads have been using it to basically bolt onto the end of query logs and trace logs to colorize things for them. And that's great. IPC command multiplex, tiny wrap around po wheel run. We all know how to, most of us know how to use po wheel run to fire up a bunch of processes and get the information. Command multiplex reduces it to a single subroutine call. And that then means I've had a bunch of newbies on hash Perl help wanting to call, say, 20 pings at once, who've been able to use that to get something working without having to understand any of the event-driven and asynchronous stuff. And I think, okay, I have these two examples because I wrote them to try and make the point. But we need to be looking at building more little tools like that basically encapsulate one common pattern that we understand into something that we can hand to somebody who couldn't write it themselves, but they can still use it. We need more stuff like this. We need more things that are simple, self-contained. Here is a way to help stuff. What have you got your hand up for?
So then you're pushing gateway drugs.
Always. So, and this gives us a chance to get systems people to realise that it's actually worth figuring out how to CPAN M and FATPAC stuff rather than just using the core modules. On the website, Plaque is a great advance. Plaque is religiously pure Perl, the core of Plaque. An excess dependency snuck in once, and Mia Gowra and I basically went, that wasn't supposed to happen, and chased down the upstream person that we were depending on, and they went, oh, sorry, didn't realise, and that was sorted within like 2 days. So Plaque is generally something that you can deploy this way. Dancer, while I'm not particularly fond of the routing style, they nicked it from some Ruby random thing. Apparently a lot of people find it very easy and very nice. And again, I don't feel like I'm the target audience for this. I suspect all the reasons I dislike it are the reasons why it's very accessible to people. And then, you know, Modulicious, for all of my disagreements with certain things about it, is a single package that comes down and provides you with a complete web development environment. And it's definitely a massive improvement on CGI.pm. So that's good. And there's Web Simple, which I've been working on, which I might actually not hate the next release of, which is going in the same sort of direction. And we need to think in these sort of terms because we want to get newbie web developers excited about this stuff. Not, you know, until you've been doing web dev for 3 or 4 years, you don't understand why you need something like Catalyst. You just don't. Basically, the process of people coming to Catalyst is they see Catalyst and they suddenly realise they've written half of this twice, at least, in their own projects. And then go, hang on, why don't I just use the one off CPAN? I mean, this was how I came to Catalyst about 5 years ago. So again, we need to be getting stuff, we need to be putting stuff out that people who are new to Perl can pull and just use and actually get that wow moment quickly enough for them not to run off to PHP. So you still then suffer from the can't get there from here problem. Because, you know, Dancer is nothing like Catalyst. Mojo, well, they managed to successfully copy a bunch of the design mistakes in Catalyst, but other than that, it's not really that similar. So you run into the thing of there isn't continuity. Well, unless you're a Wade, in which case it's a CPAN module. But anyway, no, okay, nobody got that joke.
I did.
Never do that again. Anyway. CGI application structured is interesting though. CGI application structure is actually one of the few things I've seen that gets this right. Because it's a layer on top of CGI app. It's got DBIX class and template toolkit integration. And a catalyst style model method for getting DBIX class result sets. The entire reason of this being, CGI application structured is designed to be, you want a catalyst style environment, but you don't have a large enough project to justify using catalyst. So you use this, and then later on, it's very easy to swap structured out and turn all of your CGI app controllers into catalyst controllers. And I think that's a fascinating thing, because he's writing code that is specifically designed to be outgrown as the application gets bigger, and is designed to be easy to outgrow and easy to then migrate upwards from. And I think we need to think a lot more about that, about how does somebody come in, start off with a single page application, web CGI, or a 10-line command line script, and go from there to something that's tens of thousands of lines of code, without having to have a stop and rewrite everything moment. And instead give them a way to gradually move things up and refactor and factor out as it's useful. Rather than I have exceeded the capabilities of this thing. Now I have to rewrite my entire code. But no! If they're going to rewrite their entire code base, management is going to find an excuse to move them to a different programming language. Not thinking of any failed Java projects somewhere at a possibly media-related company in the vicinity of here. Anyway, the point is we need stepping stones. We need a way for people to get... The difference between a small-scale application that you shove up via FTP and a full-scale business app deployed on a real server. Currently, that's a massive gulf. What we need to turn it into is a stream and put stepping stones in the flipping stream. Okay, some of the newbies are still going to fall off and get their arse wet, but that's the nature of newbies, right? We all did this as well, and it was mostly fun. So, CGI application structure demonstrates the overall principle. It just has this small disadvantage of CGI application being involved. But never mind. So, moving on, writing. Okay, Modern Perl is a great start, but we need more comprehensive tutorials. Modern Perl covers an overview of everything. Something we need to be doing is putting out tutorials that start off, you are trying to learn how to do this. Not you're trying to learn Perl, it's you want to do this and you happen to be using Perl to do it. And orient it around what the user is trying to achieve rather than actually learning the base technologies. Rangard, who I suspect has gone to a different talk, is working towards a standard for distributions on CPAN that are learn : example, which are basically teaching distributions where all of the code examples in the pod become part of the tests, and we're hoping to move that into a pattern for building learning resources that are not only versioned on CPAN but have runnable code with them. And of course, we still have the traditional approach of getting words out into the ether, blogging, which is great, but a lot of the posts that we see on blogs are, I was doing this with this in this big complicated system, and here's an example of 10 lines from the middle of a giant application. That doesn't make any sense at all to somebody who isn't already developing, so that post doesn't break outside the echo chamber. You can't make people shave yaks to understand why it's cool, because they'll never get there, because they don't understand why it's cool yet. So, one of the simplest things is, if you're talking about a module, make sure the example script that you have is actually something that will run, and just mention the CPAN- approach. That builds up a local lib with the module in it. So teach them that, teach them how to set Perl 5 lib, bang! Your blog post now became a runnable example that can give them that wow moment. And that's essential to getting this to work. You want the example to not just be runnable, but complete. So it actually does something, and it actually shows them how cool this is. The problem we're having is that we're writing for each other, which is great in terms of sharing our understanding of the state of the art, but we need to be writing for the newbies as well. Otherwise, all of the writing that we're doing, all of the effort that's gone into Iron Man is still going to be trapped in the echo chamber. And it's not going to attract the next generation. And we need to show off simpler tricks. We're mostly going, oh, look at this complicated thing, this is really exciting, and it is to us. But to a random newbie, there's so many things that we take for granted. There's stuff that's not Perl specific. You know, some of the tricks of find over here, whack it through a Perl miner's PE, stick it into Xargs. Okay, it only incidentally used Perl. But again, somebody's going to use that and then go, I need to tweak it slightly, and they're going to crack open the Perl docs. And that's the first step towards getting them addicted. And we need to give people wow moments that don't require them to have learned Perl in advance. So, you know, here's a little script that will reconvert a bunch of images for you. Here's a little script that will do this or that. It doesn't really matter what it is. But, you know, at least once a week, I'm sure most of us will knock out a 2 or 3 line piece of Perl that does something incredibly useful, but isn't dependent on the fact that we're doing it in an environment that's a Perl development environment. It's just we're in a Unix environment, and therefore Perl is an effective tool. And we need to spread those wow moments. And this is where teaching comes in. So help people who are stuck. Help people who are trying their noddy stuff. I know it's painful when somebody doesn't even know what use strict is, but teach them what it is. Show them how it catches errors for them. Teach them how to do sensible Perl syntax. Teach them to use auto-die. Help out colleagues who are stuck. I was working as a sysadmin in a software house at one point, and Perl went from the thing people used when they really couldn't avoid it, to a preferred scripting language for doing tooling around deployment of that software. Simply because I was always happy for a member of the dev team to come over to me and go, can you give me a hand with this Perl script? And plus it gave me friends among the development department who'd calm their colleagues down when I went over and chainsawed them for doing something stupid on my servers. Stack Overflow. Stack Overflow is crawling with people who have no idea what they're doing. A little bit of help to them is going to go a long way, and Stack Overflow is getting so visible that having Perl questions regularly answered in a knowledgeable fashion it will be a huge advantage. Look at non-Perl mailing lists. Look at things like your local log or geek up or whatever list. If somebody's going, I'm trying to move this set of files to over here, yada yada, I have this horrible shell script that doesn't work. Give them the 2-line Perl script that does it properly. Just send it out. It's going to take you 5 minutes to write, and they're going to go, ooh, cool. Maybe even, if you want to understand the extent to which the echo chamber and outside the echo chamber are different, turn up on some of the newbie channels. Freenode hash Perl or Perl help on irc.perl.org. Try a few hours, and you'll start to see that it's a different world for these people. Because all the things that we take for granted as basic knowledge, they haven't seen yet. Okay, so that was supposed to be a 3-step program. Let's have a 4th. Share. Share is interesting, because we want to share all this cool stuff with the outside world. So invade a Linux user group and talk to people about one-liner tricks. Invade a dollar language meetup. Go and show the Ruby guys what it's like to have a programming language with a decent object system. Invade a geek up and wade through the web design conversations and wank 2.0 and whatever, and show them how to use a very small Perl script to generate out all their static pages, whatever. There's so much stuff that we take for granted. Sensible regular expression integration. Perl minus NE and PE and NLE and all of those tricks. The idea that you can actually install modules and it works. And we need to show this stuff at PM groups. If you're part of a Perlmongers group, bear in mind that there are potentially people out there, because Perlmongers groups are tending to be a bunch of people using Perl heavily, they're often quite daunting for people who've only just started playing with it. So every so often, maybe have a newbie meeting where you talk about, talk about the stuff that you would explain to a new junior developer at your company. talk about little command line tricks and stuff, and make the people who aren't already serious Perl hackers feel welcome and feel like they have something to contribute. And go over things that don't require a huge amount of experience to understand. Go over things that can potentially be useful to them even outside of a Perl environment. Because we need to find a way to support the people who are going to become the next generation, because if they end up not getting directly involved in the Perlmongers group, because it's daunting, they're either going to slough off to other languages, or they are going to learn crap. And at the point at which they turn up with enough confidence, we're going to spend the next 2 years teaching them how to do it properly. Finally though, the best way to get things out is to show people. And the way to show people is build applications. Build something that is actually installable, that people can do something with. Because, and again, we're not doing enough of that. Too much Perl sits on corporate servers. The company that created Django, all their back office systems are mod Perl and DBIX class. Does anybody know about that? Do they bollocks like? Because all of the front-facing stuff was the Django and Python stuff, and everybody talks about, this is the Django company. Well, yes, except all of the complicated business logic was written in Perl, but we've not told anybody. So we need to get applications out there. I mean, Andy Lester's Programmer's Grep. That's a huge thing for making people play around with Perl stuff. SD, Simple Defects, the peer-to-peer bug tracker that Best Practical did. It'll sync to RT, it'll sync to Bugzilla, it'll sync to Track, it'll sync to Redmon. And I've been able to get people who wouldn't normally touch Perl with a 50-foot barge pole with a fireball on the end, to set up a sensible Perl environment and local lib to get SD, to get a command line interface to their company's bug tracker. And Gitterlite's fairly heinous Perl, but it's successfully killing Gitosis, which is fairly heinous Python, so possibly an improvement. And people are trying to tweak it for their own local customization. Suddenly they're learning some Perl. Apps are what people first see. If you look at how did a lot of people get into PHP, people got into PHP because they wanted to tweak their WordPress install, because they wanted to tweak a Drupal install. Now, you know, surely we could produce something better. But the reason I say this is an outside context problem for us is, movable bloody type? Really? Is that the best we can do? We need to actually find people who care about pretty and usable. We make the code, get them to make it pretty, produce something people can actually install on cheap hosting. And therein, these people are going to install it, they're going to try it, they're going to go, I want to customize this, and then they're going to take their first baby steps with Perl. And so, what we need to be doing is to break out of the echo chamber. We need to be able to provide stuff that's simple. It needs to be accessible, easy to get started with. There needs to be easy migration from whatever they were doing before to this, and from the simple stuff on to the serious professional grade tools. Because that's how we recruit the next generation, one learning step at a time. So yeah, okay. And anyway, you've got to recruit the next generation. I think I've already yelled well volunteered at everybody in here. More victims! So I say that at this point, we've got the serious production grade tooling cracked. We've got the, yes, we actually need to do some marketing shift of thought cracked. This is our Excession. This is where we are failing to see, because we simply don't have the comprehension, because we don't have the problems these people do, because we're so used to the solutions already being there. They don't even know they have that problem yet, so we need to teach them that and sell them a solution to it. Preferably sell them a solution to it that runs on the Perl 5 VM. So let's meet it head on, get out there, start talking to people. Try and get our heads around this and figure out what we need to do, what these people actually need, and provide it them, because this is where we're going to get our next generation of minions from. And, you know, in 5 years, everybody in this room is going to be mid-level to senior developer. which would you rather be doing? Bringing in somebody who learned on good basic Perl stuff and training them up a bit? Or having to cross-train some poor bastard who's had his mind melted by 3 years of PHP? I know which I prefer. So have a think about that, come back with ideas, and thank you very much. No questions? Have a couple of minutes.
Question. This means that next year at the London PM workshop there will be things that are for newbies? Because today they are not.
So it's a workshop?
No, it's not for newbies.
Is it not for newbies?
No, but you have to learn. You have to know quite a bit of Perl for that.
I believe next year's YAPC-NA is going to have a newbie track.
I'm not talking about the YAPC-NA, I'm talking about the London Perl workshop, and maybe about the YAPC Europe. But
yeah, but...
just a suggestion.
Yeah, YAPC-NA next year is being organised by...
Next year London Perl workshop have some things for newbies. Explain what variables are, explain what modules are, how you make them, how to use them. Because today there's nothing about it.
I think it makes a change that Dave isn't doing at least one, there isn't at least one beginner track on the.
But that's challenge accepted down to us. When people who submit the talks.
Yep. I would love to see that, and I'm currently spending most of my spare dev time working on modules that will hopefully be basically debt-like stuff that can be used by people on crappy hosting, and will still give them a migration path up to the better stuff.
The reason why people come here is because they've had a look at Perl, they think, oh yes, I like it, I want to know a bit more. I'm a novice developer. Dave's Cross's workshop this morning was brilliant, and I'm an example where I'm a newbie and that stuff is still sinking in and it's giving me great ideas. So I think Dave Cross did a really good job for a newbie, and I am a newbie, really.
I second that.
Excellent. Yeah, noting your comment very early on about people arriving in Hash Perl from crappy web links.
Yep.
Do we need to know some SEO experts and beat the crap out of the search engine so that the good links make it to the top?
Yeah, I think going over all of the other problem is the online the decent online tutorial material is a bit scattered. There's 3 or 4 sites with it on, and then the various people who run those sites don't really like talking to the people who run the other sites, and this is why Rangard's been looking at this whole learn example idea, so that we can put example stuff onto CPAN in a well-known place, so that we then. But yes, we do really need to Google bomb the living shit out of the good stuff. Try and get people so that if somebody looks for Perl tutorial, they find Chromatic's modern Perl book. I don't always agree with Chromatic on stuff, but that book is by far and away better than anything else that's out there at the moment.
Also, a suggestion I'm actually going to make to MVK, which is probably not how you thought, is sometime before we get to the point where we're doing requests for people to submit talks, might it be an idea to have a request for people for what talks they want to hear?
Could be interesting, yeah. Well, just stick all of that on a wiki page, and then we see if people actually submit stuff.
Just a sec.
Yeah?
So, if you're saying that people are not using the good stuff, why are we not doing distribution of Perl that's got it in there? Because if you get the core Perl interpreter, you can only write 90 style code because you've not got any of the good stuff. So, if it was there,
Nothing
is
is stopping you. Nothing is stopping you.
Isn't that what strawberry Perl is?
Yeah, only for Windows though. Yeah, that's for Windows only.
I would like to point out at this point that most of these crappy CGI hostings are also still running Perl 5.8 something.
But it's something that other platforms are better at, because if you install, this is a Microsoft example, which I apologise, a certain version of .NET, you know you've got something like Link or something, it's in there. You can just install it and it just goes.
Yeah, it's worth looking at that stuff, but that sort of thing isn't going to kick in until 2-3 years from now. What I'm looking at is ways of letting people get more out of the environments that are there in production now. you know, the wouldn't it be nice if? Yes, absolutely. There is currently a Linode box doing rapid compiles and then being repeatedly rebooted into different operating systems as Shadowcat's junior sysadmin works through shaking out doing binary builds to native packages of the full Kensho stack. And once we've got that going, I suspect we're probably going to loop back around and build our own Perl and supply binary packages that are a Perl plus the full Kensho stack as well. But while I'm really pleased that we're going to have that going soon, getting the same problem of people not finding out about it is going to mean that wide adoption is going to take a while. This is part of what I'm saying. You can't just say, well, it'll all be fine, just get your sysadmin to install this entire new Perl distribution. In order to get people to start pressuring for that, we need to give them something that's maybe less, but that they can bolt on top of what they already have in order to give them the impetus to be asking for it. I mean, at the moment, it's trivial. $6 a month DreamHost account. SSH in, Perl brew up your own Perl binary, snap in whatever you want. You're running half a dozen commands and you've got a complete Perl 512 environment. And that's great. But first, you have to convince them that they want to get a $6 a month account to do it. And second, they have to already realise that at the end of that process they're going to have something worth caring about. You know, binaries are going to make it a lot easier for the people who are already there, but the point is, how do we get them there from here? That's what's worrying me at the moment. It's getting people far enough to realise that they want that sort of thing.
Also, as it exists, Perl brew mostly looks like, here's what you want to do if you're a developer with weird requirements that wants their own custom Perl, and not here's what you do if you are stuck with an old Perl on your cheap hosting account.
I don't know.
It's not newbie friendly. I mean, once you install it, it's easy to use, but it doesn't look like it's going to be easy to use when you start looking at it.
You'll audit your dot patches, right?
So we're going to have to leave it there.
Yeah.
If you want to continue this discussion, which I think is absolutely fascinating, put a beer in his hand later and he'll talk to you much like that.
Forever, probably.